Well, good morning. It may not be morning for you, but it is morning for me, and it's time for a little sip of coffee. Ah, that's good. And it's time to continue reading the Empty Nest Road Trip Blues. We are up to day 9, which is called Boston, Here We Come. Heading to Boston, finally. While Arnie was blissfully enjoying the comfort of our great room at the baseball bed and breakfast in Cooperstown, New York, I was up early, 6 a.m., doing my usual computer internet routine. I had a lovely blueberry pancake breakfast with the 2 other guests outside on the patio in perfect weather. Arnie slept, though I asked the proprietor to save him a plate. Then I headed into town, passing the farmer's market along the way and enjoying the small-town atmosphere of it and the fresh aromas and friendliness that was present. Some of those homegrown vegetables were really good looking. Proceeding down the main street, I again went to the Baseball Hall of Fame. There is really way too much to see on a short couple of visits. I'm not much of a museum lover anyway, but I did enjoy all the incredible visual displays and memorabilia. I loved watching, for the umpteenth time, the Who's on First comedy routine of Abbott and Costello. It seemed a different version than I recalled, and I loved it. The display of World Series rings and pins was also incredible, as were the wall of baseball cards and the audiovisual recognition of the Yankees' 27 World Series victories. Even the hallowed Hall of Fame itself was moving, because I recognized so many names from my own childhood and baseball history. It's hard not to be moved by the nobility of the sport, while there at least they chose to ignore the bad side of things, like the infamous Black Sox scandal and Pete Rose and his issues. Even with the Babe Ruth exhibit, they chose to ignore the dark side of his life. Ironically, I didn't mind the reverence at all. Too much of our world today seems too open, and every public figure is scrutinized mercilessly, while there also seems not to be much consequence for any poor behavior. The recent Lance Armstrong scandal is a harsh reminder of this. I'm not sure if it was better back in the day, when the studios tried to control the publicity around their stars and athletes were protected along with politicians from their own foibles, but that's another discussion altogether. I more or less raced through all the exhibits since we wanted to get back on the road for our last drive to Boston. On my way back to our B&B, I checked out just about every souvenir shop to try and find a photo album in which to put the best of the hundreds of photos I'd taken in Cooperstown and from the rest of the trip. Not one place had a 4x6 photo album. Wow, has digital overtaken us? It's funny because I love digital photography, but I still like to flip through family photo albums. I guess that's over, and I will just get a digital photo frame and begin loading up photos in one, starting with this trip. This new reality is clearly reflected in my choice to publish this book only as an ebook. Going the traditional route didn't even enter my mind. I also made a stop on the way back at the local bake shop and got a couple of cinnamon rolls for our lunch and on the way to Boston. They were good cinnamon rolls, but Grounds for Coffee in Vancouver and Harry's Roadhouse in Santa Fe, New Mexico still are the best I've found in North America. We said goodbye to our B&B hosts and began driving through gorgeous countryside, heading through New York towards Boston. The GPS said we had another 3 hours and 16 minutes to go. Upon arrival at our hotel in Boston, a number of people around the hotel wearing tattoos struck us as a bit odd. When we checked in, we discovered even more tatted folks inside and learned that the Boston Tattoo Convention was being held in the hotel. Arnie immediately saw a Berkeley friend, and his demeanor perked up like I hadn't seen all summer. I checked in, unpacked, and took a huge sigh. We had made it. Arnie was gone, and after checking email and unpacking, I was going to be in this hotel for 4 days. Yippee! I thought I'd venture to the tattoo convention and see if I could talk my way into it. I did. What followed was truly a marvel. The sights literally assaulted my senses, along with some immediate negative snap judgments. Of course, I was the one who stuck out like a sore thumb, both in age and dress. Naturally, I documented all I saw with video and photos. There's a lot of photos, by the way, in the book, and a great video. I interviewed as many people as I could, mostly the women because they were the most fascinating to me. Every person I encountered was friendly. Every person was happy. This was their thing. Within minutes, my judgments had flown out the window, though I wasn't rushing to one of the dozens of tattoo booths to get Mom tattooed on my arm. I learned that the current trend was that more and more women were getting tattoos, and the crowd seemed to verify that. That was surprising to me. I actually loved being there and returned after having dinner with Arnie and a dozen of his Berkeley friends, along with a few parents. 17 of us had dinner. The kids were at one end, the parents at the other. We parents were all enjoying each other's company, but not near as much as our kids were loving each other, loving the moment, singing and sharing dreams and aspirations. I felt like the journey was worth it. I even felt that the tuition might be worth it though I'll likely never get over the staggering costs and how and why they become so high. The hotel was swarming not only with attendees of the tattoo convention, but with kids and their parents arriving in Boston for move-in day at all the schools here. Arnie continued to run into new friends, kids he'd gotten to know when he'd visited Berkeley for his first placement tests, and kids he'd gotten to know on the incoming freshman Facebook page. What a smart idea that is. Attending the Boston Tattoo Convention turned out to be quite a revelation. In this case, I'm almost at a loss for words, and will allow both my video, An Alien at the Tattoo Convention, and the pictures that I placed in this book to be illustrative of the experience. No captions are required. And I'm scrolling through these pictures, still amazed at the images, and amazed at how friendly and wonderful everyone was. And I believe this is the end of day 9. And day 10, which is coming up next, is Tattoos and Move-In Day. So stay tuned.